Viewer discretion is advised.
Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Chevy John don't come for you?
Photoshop Cops is filmed on location with the men and women of Adobe Photoshop. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty on Twitter.
I just recently was assigned to the East Side Graveyard shift. We're in the image capture precinct. It's an area really well known for really bad retouching. Just really overblown skin, even all the way to editing on the background layer, which is horrifying. But that's very typical of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis here. I was on my way to pick up some bear claws, and I got a call for some backup. Somebody we've dealt with on numerous occasions. And we're going to see if we can talk some sense into him. Don't know what to do about that. We're going to see how this plays out. So.
All right, so homeowner comes home, catches his son-in-law retouching with a mouse, tries to take it away, give the guy a Wacom tablet, and you know the rest of the story, man. Once you get addicted to that mouse, there's no taking it away.
That's a whole lot of messed up. All right, let's do this.
What?
Ma'am, Photoshop Cops, we understand there's some illegal retouching going on here.
Oh, you know it. He's on that mouse again.
Uh-huh, all right. Good to see you, Vinny.
Good to see you.
What you doing?
Still editing.
What you got in your hand there?
I got nothing in my hand. I got nothing in my hand.
Vinny?
Got nothing in my hand.
Stand up, Vinny.
Show us both hands.
Both hands. All right, hey, all right, drop it. Drop it on the ground.
Okay.
On the ground, Vinny.
Down.
Kick it over.
All right, Vinny, we're going to have to arrest you. You have the right to remain retouching. Anything you say can and will be used against you on Facebook. You have the right to hire a retoucher. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you by your local meetup group. Do you understand these rights as I read them to you?
They hate my pictures on Facebook.
They hate everybody's picture.
I bought him a perfectly good tablet to use, and he's never taken it out of the box.
Brand new tablet. You're aware, Vinny, I know you're aware that it's illegal to retouch in Adobe County.
Vinny, you're going to have a family soon.
All right, I'm going to try. I'm going to try this tablet thing.
It's time to step it up, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, I'll tell you what. If you promise that you're going to use the tablet from now on, we will let you off with a warning tonight.
Thank you, officer.
We're also going to confiscate the mouse.
Take it. All right, fine. Take it.
Because my tablet broke and I need something to use.
All right, thank you.
All right, look.
Thank you. Officer, thank you.
Pen?
Thank you.
All right, and one more thing. You save a lot of money on your car insurance by switching to Geico.
Be good, Vinny. Don't make us
Thank you, officer.
Thank you, officers.
You know, it's sad. He's really going to have to get some help if he's ever going to kick that mouse habit.
Oh, no doubt. The man's got a serious problem. You know what it reminds me, though? You know, they have slang for people that use a mouse like this. You know, they call it weird things like El Raton, the Aunt Betty, the Lair Flattener.
Those are not mouse nicknames.
How about Pebble Pounder?
No. Not at all.
No, they're not.
They're not.
You're right, though. All right, so I'll see you at the next call. So, all right, man. Catch you later.
Love you.
All right, love you.
That's a 10-4 on the 2.8. Dispatch called it in. Since we got a flasher, it's pretty common in this area. What you'll get these photographers that, you know, they come out here, they think they're doing good. They get the pop-up flash off of the camera, and they get a hot shoe flash, and they think they're getting there. But what they don't realize is they're turning it up to full power. So looks like Officer Barker is already on scene. So I'm gonna get out and just see what we can find out.
Hey, you want bear claws?
Yeah.
All right, make it 4 bear claws. Yeah, bear claw. It's a pastry, not an appendage. God, you're kidding me. Jeez. So, what we got?
I called in an F2.8. We've got a female Caucasian with pink hair. Looks like she's using hot shoe flash, and the station's called in a number of reports about that over the last few weeks, so I think we proceed with caution.
Yeah, sounds like a hot call.
More dog. Yeah, more dog.
me.
That's what I'm looking for.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah?
Man, what's going on here?
I'm just taking this family's portrait.
What's that on top of your camera?
It's a hot shoe flash.
And more importantly, why is it on top of your camera?
Well, it goes in the little space on top of the camera. It's a hot shoe flash.
Ma'am, do you have any idea what that hot shoe flash does to these little kids?
Well, I needed a little more light.
Let me show you something here. Look. You see this? Look at the detail that's getting blown out.
Oh,
here.
that's not my photo. I didn't take that.
Please.
No, I I didn't take that. I just borrowed this from a friend.
You must think I'm really stupid.
I mean, a little.
All right, granted. All right, but you guys, you look like a very nice family. I hate to see this happening to you guys. Look what's going on here.
Oh my God.
We're paying good money for this. I didn't. I mean, that's not, that one's not mine.
Unacceptable. You have no idea the permanent damage you are doing to these poor kids. And, more importantly, this poor dog.
Well, I just didn't want any shadows.
Look, I don't like shadows either. It hardly makes it right.
Ma'am, I think you knew you weren't supposed to use that hot shoe flash on top of your camera. So here's a wireless trigger. I do not want to see that hot shoe flash on top of your camera again.
We're gonna have to cite you on this. Now, normally a fine for this kind of infraction is roughly around $500. But because he's in a good mood, here's what I'm gonna do. Because I like your hair so much.
Thank you.
If you go to the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando and have a counseling session with an Officer Joe McNally. Say the name back, please.
Officer McNulty?
McNally.
McNulty?
McNally.
McNally.
Again, one more time.
Officer McNally.
Very, very good. All right, if you have a counseling session with him by April 20th, there at the Orange County Convention Center, we will drop the charges and you won't pay the fine. But if you return your hair to its natural color, the fine will be doubled.
Can I at least get a pro pass?
Ma'am, that's not up to us.
Well, how about a ticket to Midnight Madness?
You're wrong, ma'am. You're a madness.
Bear ones are good too, but I mean, the chocolate.
I'm gonna brief you on today's operation. We got a tip from an informant about the Saperstein wedding at St. Joseph's Church. Apparently, they're gonna be shooting this without a professional wedding photographer. Worse yet, they're gonna be using this guy. This is our perp, it's Tyler. He works with the groom, he's in their IT department. He's gonna shoot the whole thing with an iPhone.
Come on. What?
Obviously, we're not gonna let this happen in Photoshop Precinct, so we're gonna do an undercover operation. So here's what we're doing. I will be across the street in an unmarked, covering the bride and groom leaving the church, and I imagine Tyler will be here when the bride arrives to enter the church. So we're gonna have our men covering this from top to bottom. We are gonna deliver a professional shoot for them. We're not gonna, this doesn't happen in our precinct. It'll be all plain clothes. We're gonna integrate ourselves with the bride and the groom's wedding party at the church. So it's very, very important that we don't blow our cover. Officer Cross will handle getting the images up on Facebook, and Officer Peterson will deliver the final album to the couple.
Will there be any Mounties involved?
No, there will be no need for Canadian Mounties on this operation.
Hockey players?
There will be no need for Canadian hockey players on this operation.
Will there be a Tim Hortons nearby?
There is not a Tim Hortons anywhere nearby.
Will it be a problem if I put a giant maple leaf on my shirt?
Yes, that would be a big problem. This is an undercover operation. Wearing a big maple leaf might just give us away. All right, you guys, be careful out there. Get some good shots. When you're on an operation like this, deep undercover, the main thing is you don't want to give away what's going on. You don't want to raise any suspicion. You don't want to draw any attention to yourself. You really want to just really, really play it low, and that's the thing. And that's what we try to do out here. We try to blend in, just kind of make it like you're always here, and there's no reason for anyone to look over at you or see anything different. All right, there's Tyler. All right, we got our maid of honor, and let's see, looks like we got, yep, we have the bride. Guys, the bride's in position. All right, she's coming in, and Officer Kloskowski, you can't see him. He's shooting from the other side, right around the bush. There he is. And very nice. All right, okay. Everything looks good, guys. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Tyler's heading over to Officer Kloskowski. Uh-oh. Guys, Kloskowski's cover's blown. I repeat, his cover's blown. We're gonna have to go with plan B. Let's go ahead and bring in some other shooters. Well, these are the kind of risks you take when you're out here working undercover. But, you know, at the end of the day, you can't have guys like Tyler running around there endangering the integrity of professional wedding photography. When you bust up a bad shoot like this, you take another hack like Tyler off the street, to me, that's what it's all about. That's why we do it. That's why I became a Photoshop cop.
I got him at gunpoint. Okay, gunpoint, 132 in Bush, covers code 3. Okay, we'll still send it code 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage President of KelbyOne, Scott Kelby.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Photoshop World. We are absolutely so delighted that you've decided to come here to Florida and spend a few days with us just getting totally immersed in Photoshop and Lightroom and photography and the whole thing. We are absolutely thrilled that you are here. I also want to welcome all the people around the world who are watching this keynote streamed live, so welcome to you guys too. Now, I want to tell you that we start every Photoshop World with a movie like that. Luckily, we're professional actors, so everything went perfectly as planned all the time. And luckily, when mistakes were made, we cut off the camera immediately. Anyway, let's relive some of those moments while the camera was rolling. We're going to position two shooters. Nice. Hey, we'll be done with this by midnight. He's going to shoot the whole thing with an iPhone.
Come on. Really?
That's better.
Do not break them again. We will not be permitting this area, but
I hear ya.
It was a dark of the moon on the 6th of June in a Kenworth pulling logs. Cab over Pete with a reefer on and a Jimmy hauling hogs.
We are here to protect you in situations like this. Ma'am, what the hell?
I was heading for Bear on I-10, about a mile out of Shaky Town. I said, Pigpen, this here's a rubber duck, and I'm about to put the hammer down.
once you get a hold of that mouse and you get addicted, it's hard to pull it away.
Yeah, it's hard to let go of the mouse. Yeah, well, that's just, sorry.
Obviously, we're not going to let this happen in Photoshop Precinct. So I'll start again. It'll only take me 40 takes. Dave knows I'm a 40 take guy. Because, why? I am not an actor.
You ever swim in a bathtub full of cotton balls?
Burn in a full moon. All right, okay.
You ever showered with a grown man?
Okay. Watch your ISO. Watch your buddy's ISO. That sounds bad. He's going to be shooting the entire wedding on his iPhone.
What?
Sorry. You're spitting a shrink.
What you're going to have to do is attend Photoshop World at Photoshop World in Orlando.
Will Justin Trudeau be involved in any way?
Justin Trudeau will not be involved, as a matter of fact.
Pastry, not an appendage. You know what? All right, man. What do we got?
Man down!
Man down. It's illegal to be retouching with a mouse?
I told him. What's my line?
Dude, that was the lamest. I told him.
You doing some illegal retouching there?
I told him it was what?
Oh my God!
You told him it was what? What are you trying to say, ma'am? Come on, Vinny.
You need to see both hands.
Drop it. Now kick it over.
Kick the mouse. All right.
Kick it over.
Kick
Good
the mouse
job.
over.
All right.
Yeah, you're a good boy.
Good boy.
You're a good boy.
All right, and action.
What? I don't. Catch you later.
Love you.
All right, love you.
I love it. Love you too.
I went with it.
Thanks. So this is our 33rd Photoshop World. I can't believe it myself. It's been 33, and you know what? We've been very, very lucky since the very, very first one that Adobe has supported us in such a meaningful way. In fact, the very first Photoshop World held in 1999, Adobe did the keynote presentation, and they've done it in every single one since then, and we are so grateful and honored to be able to share the stage with Adobe, of course, and to be able to do a conference, and we couldn't do it without Adobe's help. And this morning, I get the honor to turn the stage over to Adobe for their keynote presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Adobe Systems, the awesome, awesome Julieanne Kost.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Scott, and welcome everybody. We are so excited that you are here at Photoshop World. And for all of you who are online, watching us via streaming, hello to everyone. I have a lot to cover today. Hopefully we will have some fun. So let's go ahead and get started. If we can see my slides up there, that'd be lovely. Okay. So today we're going to take a look at some of the tools that photographers use. More specifically, the newer tools, and we're going to look at Lightroom, we're going to look at Lightroom Mobile, we're going to look at Lightroom Web, we're going to look at Lightroom on the desktop. Then we're going to move to some of our design tools, and I'm going to show you how to use some of the tools to be more productive, as well as collaborate with additional friends, family, or coworkers. And then we're going to take a look at some of our storytelling apps. I can't believe I'm out of breath from running across the stage. That is really pathetic. Maybe I need one of those Fitbits. Note to self. Okay, we're going to take a look at those storytelling apps. So that's like Spark Page, Spark Post. Those can help us merge text along with photos to post them to social media, or they can create beautiful, elegant, longer form stories. And we'll also take a look at Behance and Portfolio for growing our community, as well as showing our work. So let's start with Lightroom. I'm going to start by showing you some of my favorite new features. All right, we'll start with mobile. Just out of curiosity, I imagine that a lot of you have mobile devices with you today, right? And I imagine that maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, we were using those devices primarily to consume content, right? So we were watching things on them. But it's becoming more and more important today to also be able to create content, to access all of our other content, no matter what device it's on, and to be able to share and post that content. So we're going to take a look at that. I just have a question to ask you. So how many of you are capturing photos on your mobile phone? Are you expecting the cops to come in right now? Okay, and so then how many of you are using Lightroom Mobile to capture images? Oh, so not as many. So I suspect that a lot of you are using your mobile devices and you're capturing, dare I say it, compressed JPEG files, right? So one of the advantages of using Lightroom Mobile to capture your images is that we capture RAW files, and not just a single RAW file, we can capture HDR on your mobile device. So let's just take a quick look at that. I'm just going to quickly access the camera here, and you can do that with the newer operating systems. You can just pop it open, and it asks you which camera you want to use. So do I want to take a selfie? No. Do I want to take a picture with the camera? Absolutely. So that brings up the camera, and look at all of you looking so nice out there. If I come over here and we're just on automatic or the professional mode, you'll notice at the top I can choose whether I want to shoot in JPEG or DNG. I'm going to leave that to DNG, and down here at the bottom I can also choose high dynamic range. As soon as I select high dynamic range, I have an exposure compensation, I have white balance, and I have a manual focus slider. So although you all look very nice, it's probably not the best example for HDR. So I'm going to back out of the camera, and we're just going to take a look at a few examples. So I was just at an event in Japan, and we actually went to Chinatown for dinner. And you can see in this sign, so this is a RAW file, but we can't see a ton of detail in that sign. Whereas if I move to the next image and we look at the HDR, we're getting all of that extra information. Okay, we look at another example. Here's kind of something similar, where you really can't see all the characters in that sign, but we move over to the HDR, and sure enough, we can get all of that information, right? So, oh, and here's a good example too, as to you can decide what it is you want to focus on, right? So do you want to focus on the raindrops on the window, or do you want to go ahead and shoot through that and just photograph the Ferris wheel? Okay? So let's take a look at how easy it is to enhance an image. So this is typical bright day and lots of dark shadows. So when you capture in HDR, Lightroom is actually taking 3 exposures. It's analyzing the scene to see how far apart those exposures should be. It's going to automatically align those exposures, merge those exposures together, and it's going to create a 16-bit floating point image. So I can come in here and use all of the little icons across the bottom. If I go to the light edit stack and just tap auto, it is already looking better. I could maybe pull up the exposure a little bit, and we can come down here and move over the shadow sliders. So you can see the tools here are very similar to what you would have in the Develop module in Lightroom. We can go over to the effects. I can add a little bit of clarity. We can add a little bit of dehaze here. And I can come over to color. And if we want to, I can increase saturation, because we all know that that's mandatory when you're photographing in HDR. All right? That was a joke. Would you like me? I paid for the slider. I might as well use it, right? Okay, no, I don't want to make your eyes bleed. We'll just back off on that a little bit. All right, and then you can't really see very much in the sky up there, so why don't we go to our little mixer here. We actually have a targeted adjustment tool on the mobile devices, so I can go in here and go to luminance and then just bring down that sky so we can see a little bit more information there. And then I could go to saturation. Well, okay, I'll leave it. But you know, you can see my color palette. This is a little much for me, but I'll leave it for there for now. All right, so let's go ahead and back out of there. We could also add selective adjustments if you want to. So over here we've got select, go back into that file. Go into selective. You know, they teach you as a doctor, I think, not to say oops. But as a public speaker, I really need to keep that in mind. So now I can go and I can use my graduated filter or my linear filter, and we can click and drag up, and then we have all those same options. For example, I can just take down the exposure there in the foreground. So I'll go ahead and apply that, and then just a single finger touch, we can see a little before and after. So that's the power of using HDR and capturing in RAW on your iPhone. Police? No. Okay. So, all right, let me go ahead and at this point, you know, I might want to share the file, right? So I can just use a little share icon, and I could say, oh, let's share it out via email, or let's open it in Instagram, or let's edit it in Photoshop Fix or Photoshop Mix, or we can actually back out of here, and I could share the entire collection. So the collection here is the one at the top, the Japan HDR, and if I tap on those 3 dots, you can see that I can share the collection. What that does is it makes it public. It puts it online so that I can share this with friends and families. So you know how some of us, we try to email maybe friends and family, maybe 10 JPEGs, and then they're like, yeah, I love that photo you sent me. And I'm like, oh, I sent you like 10, but they never got past the first one, right? So now I can just share this link and I can email it. So let's cancel out of here, and I'm going to put the phone down for a moment, and let's wake up my little computer here. All right, so what we're looking at right now is not Lightroom Web, it's actually that shared link, right? So if I come up here to the top, I could be anyone who has this link, and this is what I would see. So I can go ahead and look through all of these images if I want to. I can click on an image, I can see it full screen, I can move to another image if I want to. If I have an Adobe ID, I can actually like these images, and I can comment on these images, and those comments will flow back up through the cloud and down to Lightroom on the desktop so that I can see those comments without even leaving my desktop. All right, so now let's take a look at Lightroom Web. So now this is me signed in to Lightroom Web on a browser. It does not have to be on my computer. It can be on any computer. I can be anywhere in the world, and I can log on with my Adobe ID through any browser. I can upload my files. I can make edits to my files. I can see all of the files that I have synchronized. So now we're no longer tied to a device, right? So again, let's take that family and friends scenario where you've got pictures that you want to show, and there's like 6 of you standing around, and you're like, I've seen it. Just watch when you go out to dinner, and someone will be like, oh yeah, and here's my picture, and they show it to the first person, and then the second person, and then the third person, and then the fourth person, right? And it goes around the room like that. Or you're doing that in your living room. Well, now you could just log on to any browser. If you've got a smart TV, you can go to the browser on the TV, you can go on someone else's computer, and you can show all of those files that are synchronized. Not only that, but if I go into one of these folders here, and I actually click on an image, I can go in and I can actually make edits to that image. So it'll load the editing stack over here on the right-hand side, and I can do things like change exposure or make whatever adjustments I want. When I save that edit and I exit, of course, all the changes I make will be synced with the cloud across all my devices. So you can actually be sitting with a client, making the actual edits that the client wants, not taking notes, not emailing back and forth, but just sitting right there with them and making those changes. There's something else that I want to show you here. So let's back out so I can see all of my collections. Now, how many of you absolutely love keywording? It's awesome, right? Friday night, nice bottle of wine, little fire in the fireplace. I'm going to do some keywording. Okay, so I actually spent an entire sabbatical keywording my entire image library. You are probably not me, and now you're thinking how grateful and lovely that is. Okay? But I want to introduce you to something called Adobe Sensei. What is Adobe Sensei? Adobe Sensei leverages artificial intelligence, deep learning, and it's going to help us to find our images. So in fact, the images that I have synchronized here are not keyworded, but I want to do a search. So I have turned on this little technology preview. We have 3 of them. We have one for auto-toning that's really cool. We have one for suggested cropping. So when you crop to like a 4x5, it looks at the content of your image and will crop accordingly. And we also have this search. So with search enabled, I'm going to search for seals. Okay? Well, I went to Antarctica. Guess what it finds? Get out. I know. No, she planned that probably. Okay, let's search for something that's green. I don't know what kind of file I want. I just want something that's green. So show me anything that's synchronized that's green. Okay, I was just in Japan. Let's take a look at cherry blossoms. Let's see what it finds. Nice. Okay, I see one right down here. That's an iceberg. You can't fool me. Ha! But the machines are learning, people, all right? So, point being, for you that procrastinated and who have never, ever, ever keyworded an image, you might end up being the big winners here as we use this artificial intelligence and machine learning to find the images that you're looking for. All right, let's go ahead and switch to Lightroom on the desktop. I've got this image selected right here. I just want to show you some of the new features in Lightroom. So, I want to make this image better. It is an HDR image. That's why it's got the little white band there. You can see it auto-adjusted it for me, and I haven't cropped it yet. We've known for a long time that Lightroom can go in and it can adjust and remove the lens profile and it can remove the distortion in the lens and and edit and apply the chromatic aberration to remove that kind of distortion as well. But under transform, we had this new thing called upright. There were different modes, and we could pick them, and we could try to level the image or make the verticals vertical or go to full. But sometimes, like when you had an image like this, when you have like lines that shouldn't be vertical, it might actually hone in on those lines and correct them. So we have the new guided upright, which will allow me to zoom in and be as precise as I want. Let me grab the tool here, and it enables you to drag out. Let's see if you guys can see how nervous I am by how shaky my lines are. But it allows you to drag out multiple lines so that you can kind of force a correct perspective on the image. So I'll just leave it at that. I think those lines should be, I'm not quite sure that a temple that old is going to be perfectly straight, but I'm going to go with it here and go ahead and we can put that tool back. Now, I've got this horrible thing. I'm sure that never happens to you. I don't know what was in my camera, but some kind of gremlin was there, so let's remove that. So I'll just grab my spot healing. You can drag a patch out. You can also reposition that patch if you don't like the automated place that it's selected, so I'll go ahead and correct that. And then we probably want to crop this image, so I'll tap the R key. And you know what? I'm seeing that I'm really close to trimming off the top of the building, so maybe what I'll do is in that transform area, do you know that you can come in here and you can scale this down because it's automatically trying to crop, right, to fix that, but I'm going to scale it down. So now when I crop, and you don't have to start with the handles. You can start anywhere in the image and crop it. Well, don't start there because then you're going to crop the top of the building, but maybe start right about there, and we'll go ahead and give that a nice crop. So that's the aspects, the scale slider. There's also offset sliders there that you can use in that transform when you're using the guided upright. All right, let's make a few adjustments. So we go to the basic panel, and I want to set my black and white points. I used to have to click auto in order to do this, but now I can hold down the shift key and just double click where it says whites and double click where it says blacks to set my black and white point. That's quite nice because then it doesn't change any of the other sliders. Of course, I probably want to pull down my highlights here and probably really pull up my shadows. Okay, that's looking a lot better. And then we could go in, we could add a little clarity if we wanted to, or we could come down here, we could add a little bit of dehaze. I'm actually going to add dehaze separately. I want to make a selective adjustment now to that sky, so we'll come in and I'll go to HSL, just like we did before, grab the targeted adjustment tool, make sure that I'm on luminance, click and drag to darken down that sky a bit. Maybe go a little too dark, but then I'll come over to saturation and just desaturate that a little bit. Looks a little bit more natural that way. And then I'm going to select my local adjustment tool here. And you guys know that when you set up a bunch of sliders, you can save those as presets. So I have one that's dehaze plus lighten, because a lot of times with dehaze, the way that that algorithm works is it really manipulates the dark and the shadow areas of your image. And I don't really want to do that, so I do want to add that kind of crispy contrast to it that dehaze does to kind of get rid of that foggy atmospheric effect. But at the same time, I want to lighten the image, and I also want to just add a bit of desaturation, because if you think about it, dehaze, if it's a real hazy day, you lose saturation in the background, so it would pull that up. I don't want to have to set these every time, so I just create a preset for it, and then I can just paint that in wherever I want it. So let's say we paint it in just on the walls here. It's going to give kind of this nice little enhancement, I think, to the modeling of the walls. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's do a little before and after there. So that was before. Did I click it? Yep, and that's after. So it just makes them stand out a little bit. But I think it's a little too much. So I'll go ahead and use the small disclosure triangle. And when I hide all the effects, you can see that there's actually an amount slider. So if you overdo your effect and you just want to pull back, you don't have to go adjust every single slider that you changed. You can come here and it will change them in relationship to one another. So really cool. Okay. And then if we want to see a quick before and after, I can just hold down the backslash key, so that's before and after. Now, I want to adjust this second image, okay? It's got this crazy sky because I did add a lot of dehaze. I want to put these both on the same page, so I want those skies to match. But it's hard to reference the little teeny thumbnail down there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into reference mode by using Shift and then R, and then dragging this photo on the left-hand side. So now when I make adjustments to my active image, right, when I come over here and I go to HSL and I go to luminance, oh look, I've already changed it a bit, it should look like that. But I grab my targeted adjustment tool and I bring this down to darken it, and then I come over here to saturation and I bring this down. Now I can compare what they look like. So I'll bring that down maybe just a little bit more until I get those two skies to match. Okay, I'm seeing a little more saturation, but I'm a little neurotic. So anyway, you can do this to your heart's content. I trust you once, I trust you? Trust me, trusting you, trust me. When you do this, you will all of a sudden go like, how did I live without that? All right? Okay, so, Lightroom, Lightroom Mobile, Lightroom Web. Let's take a minute, gather a breath. We're going to move on to Adobe Photoshop. All right? We're going to take a look at 3 different areas here in Photoshop. All right, we're going to take a look at templates. And I don't care if you're a beginner, if you're new to Photoshop, or if you're advanced, anything that can save me time and make me more productive, I'm going to use. So we'll look at templates, the start workspace, and presets. Take a look at libraries, not only to help us store assets, but also to help us collaborate with other people. And then we'll take a look at typography, some of the cool new features, including font match. So I'll just scoot over here to Photoshop, only I haven't actually launched it. So maybe I should launch Photoshop. Oh, oops. Oh, and the lights come up. How are you? Oh, now I can't see you again. All right, so I'm in Photoshop. You guys are probably familiar. This is the Start workspace. I want to create a new document, so I'll just click on New. All right, and that brings up all these different options. So for example, if I go to photo, we get a bunch of presets, and we also get a bunch of templates. And depending on what kind of work you're doing, you'll click on whatever category is meaningful for you. I'll go back to photo, scroll down, and this template here is free. You download it, it's hosted on Adobe Stock, but it actually will download locally when you just click to open it up. So templates are just that. They're a great starting point. You'll notice here that there's a layer called Your Photo here. Huh. Guess what? I'm going to replace that with my photo. So I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say Replace the Content. We can navigate here to the desktop, to a folder here, and this is an HDR image, so what, it's about 190 megs. Brings it up in Camera Raw. If I wanted to make changes, I could, but I just want to go ahead and slide that in and replace it. Now, it's replacing it with a RAW file, and that means the RAW file is actually going to be in this PSD file. So if you think of PSDs or TIFF files as candy wrappers, you can put chocolate in there, you can put caramel in there, or caramel, however you want to say it. And what happens is, now if I make edits to that, I'm not shuffling around pixels, I'm actually accessing the original photograph. Obviously it came in too large, so let's do a free transform, and we'll just back out of here a little bit. Right, make that a little bit smaller, tap return or enter, and view it a little larger. Okay, so little dark, little yellow. It's a template, that's the beauty of it. We can go in here, unlock any of these layers. I can go to hue saturation. I can get rid of some of that saturation, so now I'm seeing my image again. But again, it's still too dark, and if we look at why, it's because it's set to linear burn. Well, I can start changing the blend modes and stuff, but linear burn actually works quite well with this image. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to double click in the thumbnail for that. That's going to bring up this 200 meg file in Camera Raw, and I'm going to say, you know what, I just need to increase the exposure a little bit, brighten up the whole thing. Let's drag that over. Anyone else hear that buzzing noise? Okay, all right, then I'll click OK. No, it's just in here. Oh, I hate that. All right, so I made the adjustment to it. It goes out and re-renders the RAW file because it has all that data and it makes it lighter. Now, okay, it's looking okay, but I want to make it look a little bit more painterly. So let's take another look at how Sensei can help us. I want to apply the oil paint filter, and I know I've seen you guys, sometimes you're like, okay, oil paint, that's, is it a filter gallery? Huh, I don't know, 3D. No, blur. No, blur gallery. No, distort, it must be distort. Ah, where is this filter? Noise? No, okay, so here's the big difference between my generation and the younger generation. They'll just search for it, right? So what if you could just search in Photoshop? Well, under the edit menu, you can. It's Command F. Really easy to remember, right? So Command F, I'm going to search for oil paint. That's the filter I want. It shows it to me right there. It tells me it's under Stylize, oil paint. It also searches learn content. So it's going online and saying, hey, you're asking a question about oil paint. You're looking for that? Let me tell you something about that. Let me help you with that. It's also looking through Adobe Stock and saying, maybe you want a photo of oil paint. I just want the filter, so let's go ahead and select it. So I don't have to remember where it is. I just click on it, and it brings up the oil paint filter. And I can go ahead and apply that to the photograph. Makes kind of a cool effect on the trees there. Then maybe I also want to apply it to this vintage photo paper, just because it just looks too papery for me, and I just want to make a simple adjustment. So now I've applied it to both. All right? So that's searching, not only within the app, it'll also search for tools, menu commands, learn content, as well as stock images. So now I want to add a little watermark. I know that's quite common, so I'll grab the text tool, and we'll just type in like Command or Option G, 2017, and J cost. All right, so let's say we have this watermark, and I'd prefer that it's white, so there we go. And maybe we want to do something to this watermark, and so we come down and we add, what should we add? Maybe a bevel and emboss. Okay, great. So I don't want to do that every time. So that's another great use for libraries, right? So once I've created something that I'm going to want to reuse, whether it's type because of the character styles, whether it's a color I want to reuse, whether it's a layer style, whether it's a graphic, I can save those to my library. So at the bottom of my libraries panel, there's a little plus, and it asks me, what do you want to save? And in this case, I'll just save everything. I'll save the graphic, I'll save the character style, the layer style, the text color, and I'll just click Add, and now we can see all of those items in the library. Cool thing is if I'm done working today and I go home and I want to access these assets, well, everything in the libraries are synchronized to the cloud, so I can. So let's go ahead and we will just delete that type layer. I don't need that anymore. And if I wanted to, I could just drag it back out. Oh, let's not drag it back out there. Let's pay attention to the layer stacking order. We'll go ahead and drag it up across the top. That's never happened to you. Only the people that laughed. Okay, so then I could go ahead and add the style if I want to, or better yet, my new friend at Adobe, she just made me a stamp that's really cool. So now I got a little stamp of my name, and I can just drag that down there, and then I could apply that same layer style to that. So there's a lot you can do with libraries. In fact, let's go ahead and close this. And let's open up this image. Now this is really an embarrassing image, and I'm gonna switch over to a different library, and I'm gonna drag this image into the library. Now, I'm sure some of you photographers, when you go somewhere, like, you wanna go everywhere. Like, I wanted to go everywhere in Japan, and there's never enough time in 3 days to go everywhere. So sometimes you end up at a location like this, and you're like, right? Like, it's the wrong time of day, there's tons of tourists, what are you gonna do? So I would like to find an image like this to use in my design, but I don't have it. So by dragging the layer into my libraries panel and then right-clicking and choosing Find Similar, it'll actually invoke a search, a visually similar search, again, using Adobe Sensei, artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, and come up with search results. But I actually don't want an image that looks exactly like this. So let's take off that search for a minute. I'm gonna add a new layer. I'm gonna grab my paintbrush, and what I really want is I want a gate. But we know that if I do a search for gate, we don't know what we're gonna get. We might get a picket fence, we might get Bill Gates, I don't know. All right, so I've drawn an incredible gate. I think you will all agree, don't you? So I just put that in my libraries panel, and then I just delay for a slight moment because it does have to synchronize, so it's going up to the cloud. And once it gets up to the cloud, then I can right-click on it and say Find Similar, and it will go out. And I can choose if I only want photos or illustrations, vectors, video templates, whatever I want. So it does a really good job. It knows it was a gate. Okay, so then I can help it help me, right? Because I'm like, no, that first one is good. I want to see more like the first one. So then I just say Find Similar according to the first one, and now it's like, oh, I gotcha. You wanted more gates. You didn't want furniture. And I say, yeah, that's pretty awesome. All right, so I'm going to use this top image right here, and let's go ahead and close this one. I don't need that one. I'm just going to open up, let's just open up a new file. And I'm going to use one of the presets. So once you create a preset, like I created this 8x8 inch preset, it just appears under my recent area. So we'll open up that. Just gives me a nice blank canvas. And then I'm going to drag this top Tory gate over there, and it places it. And I'm going to resize it. I kind of want to make it like bigger than life. So I'm going to do that, put it maybe right there. And we can see if I take off that search that it has actually added it not only to my image, but also to my library. Now, we can see the watermark, but that's okay. This is a FPO for placement only right now. But I think you can see the advantages of stock. So as designers, we've made it really, so as a designer, we've made it really easy for you to actually get to the assets and the images that you want to use. As a photographer, we also have a stock contributor site, which you can contribute your work to and get your work in front of the world's biggest creative community directly within the Creative Cloud app. So it's not just limited to Photoshop, it's across all of the apps that have this libraries panel. All right, what do I want to do? I want to add a shape behind this, so I'll tap U for Shape Tool, and we'll just click and drag out a shape here. Of course, it's going to be black, which is my foreground color, but see, I'm using this library as a style sheet. I know in this design, this is my base color, so I can just select that, and then I can just drag that to reposition it down below the gate. Now, I need to make some changes to the gate. Let's invert it, so I'll do Command-I. Do you know that when you do things like add Command-I or invert, it's an adjustment layer, but because this is a smart object, well, no, it's under the adjustment menu, but because it's a smart object, it actually adds it as a smart filter, which is really cool. And then I'll just change the blend mode here to screen. Excellent, so that gets rid of that. And I also have this other little texture here. Now, what is this? Have any of you guys used the Capture app, just out of curiosity? Okay, Adobe has this Capture app that's really cool. You can go anywhere with your mobile device, and you can capture the world around you, and you can capture colors, you can capture patterns, and they're seamless, they're tiled patterns. Here, I'll just click on it. See, I get a pattern fill layer. You can capture vector artwork, you can capture color lookup tables, you can capture brushes. So really cool app, check it out when you have time. Okay, pattern's a little big. Let's reduce that to maybe 8%. And I might want to reduce it also to maybe like 50%. And let's change the blend mode to screen. We'll drag that right down below our little gate there. All right, but it's looking kind of ordinary. I need to put something there at the bottom, so we'll bring over a little illustration of Mount Fuji. We will scale that up, bring that down. That's looking much better. Now, I want to add some text at the bottom, so I need a little gradient. So I'll add a new layer right there. Go to my gradient tool, tap the D key for the default colors. I'm going from black to white, so we'll just drag it something like that. And then again, just change it to screen mode there, so I just kind of get this nice little haze. Look, it's the anti-dehaze feature in Photoshop. Okay, so what do I want to do? I want to add some text. Now, you guys are all better at type probably than I am, but I saw a sign. What? Yeah, I saw a sign. So in Photoshop, I'm just going to do a file open, and in the market, I saw this sign. Now, I have no idea what font that is, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, let's just fill this area here with white so that we can see what I'm doing. I'm going to grab the type tool. It's set to Caslon Pro. That's fine. I will just start typing in T-S-U-K-I-J-I, Nippon, fish. Okay, I think that's enough typing. All right, we can get the idea. So I have here a type layer, right? And I want to match this. So certainly I could select my type tool, and I could go in here and say, okay, well, let's go look at the instant font preview and see if I can match that font. But then I start thinking, well, wait a minute, I can also filter these, right? So I know that's a serif font, so that's great. So now at least I'm only looking at the serif fonts. But again, I want Photoshop to do the work for me so that I can be a little bit more productive. I want it to actually match that font. So I'm going to grab my marquee tool and tell it to ignore everything except for what I have selected. My type layer is actually the selected layer. And then I go into the type menu and I choose match font. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the typekit fonts for a minute, and it's going to show me, okay, we've got a lot of the same font here, but they've all got different widths and everything, so you can use those, or you could try this typeface, or you could try this typeface. So it's finding the closest matches that I have installed locally on my machine. Now, if I want to expand that, it's very easy. I can show the available fonts from typekit. So here, because they're not on my machine, if I want to look at one of them, well, all I need to do is go ahead and click on the little cloud icon, and it will download that font from Typekit, and it will install it for me. And for any of you who have been around for a long time, you know there used to be 7 places that you could install fonts to use on the Mac. So this is just incredible. So I'll click OK. It's already installed it, and it's changed my foreground here. If we go to the Type tool, it's actually selected that font for me. So really cool. Now I have the font that I want, so we just go over to the other layer, and I just type in F-U-S-H-I-M-I-I-N-A-R-I. All right, so now I add my text, grab my move tool, scoot that over, probably want that filled with, whoops, I thought I wanted it filled with, I don't want that. Okay, never mind. Black is good. I like the way the black looks right now. I guess I could go to my type tool and I could change it. I'm obviously using the wrong keyboard shortcut, or maybe not, maybe it is just pure white. Okay, so it's pure white, and I just need to reduce the opacity of that layer a little bit, get rid of some of that atmosphere. Okay, so we have two issues. One, it's just a little too clean for me, and two, I still have the problem that we've got that Adobe stock over there. So let's do this. Let's select, we don't need that background layer. Let's get rid of that. Select all of these, put them in a group. I can add a mask to that. We can go and we can open up this kind of cement texture right here, select all, copy it, go back to our layer. Now, I want to paste this texture in the mask. I don't want to overlay it because that gives me a much different effect. So I'll option click on the mask so that we're seeing the mask, do a command V to paste it, and then click on the eye icon again in order to see that. So now I've got kind of this weathered look. And you know that in the properties panel, we have this density slider, which is killer because it just changes the mask. You can watch the mask get lighter, meaning that it's not having as much effect. So I can just dial this in exactly where I want it to be. And then finally, as a last step, I do want to license the image, which is the image right, oh, it's in the other library, isn't it? Oops, well, that's okay. I meant to do that. That was on purpose. So I could show you that right directly from the layers panel, if we expand this, I can go ahead and right-click on the Japanese gate and tell it to license the image. Because now I'm sure that I want to use it in this document. I'm going to say, yes, please use one of my licenses. And we can see that that watermark, once it downloads it, will automatically go away. And it made it very small, and I don't know why. It didn't happen like that before. So the good thing is, I just want to show you how flexible this is. Because it's a smart object, I can just resize that at any time, and I don't lose any quality whatsoever. Whew, all right. So let's take a moment, let's regroup, and we're going to move on to our storytelling tools. So, with the storytelling tools, oh boy, not a lot of time. I want to talk about Spark Post and Spark Page, and I also want to talk about Behance and Portfolio. So let's just move right to this. Sorry, my machine fell asleep there. Okay, so if we could go to the iPad, and by the way, I'm going to show this on the iPad, but you can use these tools in a browser, on your desktop computer, on a laptop, or you can use them on your mobile devices. So Spark Post, real quick. I'm just going to tap in order to bring that up. It's got a ton of templates, so that's what I love, because sometimes it's just hard to start with a blank page. And for designers, I was at a design firm in Chicago, and I thought, I don't know if I want to show this to designers because they're really good at design. And they're like, no, we have to iterate. We have to come up with like 5 ideas every single time for each client. This is a great way. We go ahead and we make the basic idea. So here I've got one photograph and some text. Now, they need to change that. So let's go ahead and edit this. And they can go into the design area, and they can select any of these other designs, and it will automatically change things like the text as well as the photograph and photographic effects and the fonts and the color palette and all of that. All right, now I'm going to hit cancel out of here because I kind of like the look at this, but I'm even going to go to layout because I'm going to show you there's a ton of new layouts. So you don't just have to have one photo. You can have a photo and you can have different color blocks. You can rearrange them. You can cycle through them and it'll automatically change the positioning of them. We can even add a little banner here. So I'm going to add the banner, but then I want it to be a little bit slimmer, and I'll just move that over to the side right there, and we'll go ahead and say done. I want to apply that. But I don't really like the colors, so let's go into the palette. I can pick from any of these different color palettes. You can see there's a ton of them. You know how good I am with color, so I'm going to go with what it recommends, right? And we can just cycle through these, and I think I like the pink with the pink stripe, so there we go. So now I like that. Excellent. I'll tap done. And of course, if I tap on the text, we can change fonts. You can change the color of the text, the shape. You can reverse it so that it cuts it out. You can do all sorts of stuff here. But here's the coolest thing. Oh, you can also add animations if you want to, and you can also change the little photo effects. But what I think is great is once you've made this once, if you are actually posting this to your social media properties, you know that you probably have to manage more than one. So when I go back to layouts and I go to resize, they've just added this magic layout. So if I need this for Instagram, great, it's a square. If I want to go to Facebook, there we go. It's made the correct aspect ratio change, and it's rearranged my elements. I can always fine-tune them, but you'll notice that how quickly I can go from one to another. If you just want a specific, like there's 3:1, there's 16:9, and it will rearrange that. So really cool. I'll go ahead and click done there. And that is a quick overview of Adobe Post. Really easy. You guys can learn it within like 10 minutes. Let's take a look at Adobe Spark Page, which is different. I'm actually going to open a finished page in the browser. So this one I just created. This is more for long-form storytelling, so you've got a bunch of photos. You know, instead of just throwing them up on Facebook or something, you might want to encapsulate them with some text. Again, it's template or themed based, so I don't have to do the design. And as I scroll down through it, we can see there's different options for text. So you have your head 1, your head 2, bulleted list, numbered list, italics, things like that. You can add grids of images. You can add panoramas of images. There's another grid. Here's one that does a nice slow reveal. And anytime, if I want to go in and see these larger, I can just tap on an image and scroll from one to the next. So very easy, really cool. Best thing is when you're done, you share this. Oh, and by the way, you can also include video and links, so you could do a call to action to go somewhere else. And you could also include something like a 30 seconds. Okay, so you could also add something like mind blank GIF. All right, best part is when you share this, Adobe actually hosts it. You can embed it, you can link to it on your own social media sites, but you don't have to worry about hosting it. You can even include it in your portfolio site. So in fact, let's scoot back over to Portfolio on my desktop. Again, there's classes on Spark, Post, and Page here, so I hope you'll take advantage of them. Here we are with Portfolio. How many of you are using Adobe Portfolio, just out of curiosity? So you know it comes with your subscription. It's a free portfolio site where you can post all of your work. And look there's templates. They just added a number of new, well, they call them layouts, but they're like templates. And you think, oh, there's only 6 of them or so. Look at the different examples of the ways that people have customized these different layouts. It's really quite phenomenal. All right, so you can do as much or as little customization as you want, but I want to show you the new feature there in Portfolio. In previous versions, when you clicked on a portfolio of images, you would scroll down, but you weren't sure exactly how many photographs there were. You could kind of estimate it by the scroll bar there, I guess. But now what we have is grid view. So when we go and look at the images I just posted from Japan, sure enough, now I can look at a ton of images all at once. If I want to see one larger, it's as easy as just clicking on that image, and then I can quickly go through them, just escape back to go see that grid view. So I know that was a ton of information in a little bit amount of time, but I hope you enjoyed that. It was a little fun. Maybe you learned something. I'm so happy that you're here at Photoshop World because you've got the world's best instructors to fill in all the blanks and explain what in the world I just did. All right? Thanks a million, you guys. Thank you, Scott. Thank you.
Morning. There we go. All righty. This morning we have a very, very special tribute to a very, very special person. And to help us present that, please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Larry Becker.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Larry.
Whether it is your first Photoshop World ever, or you've been to all 33, you can boil it down to just a couple key principles: education and connection. There was a gentleman who really meant both of those things every single time we saw him here. His name was Jim DiVitale.
Hi, I'm commercial photographer Jim DiVitale. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and we are going on location today. I'm here.
the Photoshop Hall of Fame. The mission of the Photoshop Hall of Fame is to honor and recognize those individuals whose contributions to the business, education, development, and the art of Adobe Photoshop have enduring value. This year's inductee is Jim DiVitale. Scott was able to visit with Jim and present him with the Hall of Fame award before he passed in December. And today, to officially accept the award on his behalf is his wife, Helene Glassman. Helene.
Photoshop World more than Jim. He was at the very first one, and then he lucked into meeting Scott, and they invited him to teach. He loved being here. He thought it was the best learning place in the world, and you are so lucky to be attending here. And he would have loved to have seen you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Helene. That was way harder than I thought. We have some really cool things going on this week and some wonderful announcements, and I want to make sure that you don't miss a thing. So first up, we want to tell you and remind you about the after hours party that happens tonight. That's at BB King's. We have special slides. Oh, see, I'm looking at other things. Okay, so yeah, the after hours party. Yeah. It's at BB King's from 7 to 10 tonight. We also have Dinner with a Stranger. Now, the way that Dinner with a Stranger works, if you came to my orientation, you understand this. Dinner with a Stranger is you go out to the registration desk, and there's no extra fee or cost. You just pay for your dinner when you get to the restaurant. We've made we've made reservations, rather, at the restaurants for 10 to 12 people at a number of different restaurants, so you can go with fellow attendees even if you came to Photoshop World by yourself. They're going to give you a button or a badge that says "I'm a stranger," and you go to those restaurants and you look for other people with the badge that says "I'm a stranger," and you don't take that to pick up your kids at school. Tomorrow we have a couple other cool things happening besides all the great classes and the partner pavilion. We have Midnight Madness. Midnight Madness is craziness. It's silliness. It's going to happen downstairs in room 220, D through G. One of the great things about Midnight Madness is the Midnight Madness guarantee, which is you will learn absolutely nothing. But we have prizes, gags, giveaways, all kinds of contests. It's audience participation, but it is only available for the first 200 people that get a free ticket. And so ask at the registration desk where the tickets are given out. Usually it's tomorrow morning, and I'm just not sure of the location where those are going to be given out. We also have, for the first time ever, an evening with Stacy Parasol. Now, we had, at the last Photoshop World, an evening with Gregory Heisler. And the interesting thing is it was a hit. It was huge. And it was really just sit down and listen to a true professional, an accomplished artist in their craft, talk about their craft, talk about the things that they've accomplished. And Stacy Parasol is a United States Air Force photographer, a combat photographer. And she has an amazing story to share, an incredible body of work. And she also will be talking about the Veterans Portrait Project. And so that's something to definitely be aware of if you are even thinking about being inspired by the work of fellow photographers. Be sure to see Stacy Parasol. We also have something that I want to remind you about. Some of you have heard there's a Photoshop World app. Definitely grab the Photoshop World app. And when you do, at the top left of the Photoshop World app is where you touch to get to the menus. I'm going to give you a tour right now. I'm kidding. But touch at the top left if there are any issues at all, and then go to the bottom and touch refresh, and that will actually refresh the app. If you haven't downloaded it yet, you do need to download it. You put in your email address. Use the email address that you used to register for Photoshop World. So make sure that you take advantage of the app. It'll send you updates. You can plan your schedule. It's a great way to keep track of everything that's going on here. There are feedback forms inside the actual app itself. And these are very important to us. Scott pays attention to every single feedback form. So no matter which session you go to, you have the opportunity to grade the instructors and say what you liked and didn't like. And the great instructors get more classes next time. So make sure that you say really nice things about the instructors you like. It really does matter. And the ones that you don't like, you can fire them. I mean, not really, but it really does matter what you say on those evaluation forms. Now, there's also a big master evaluation form for the overall conference. And you want to fill that out because we want to know what you think about the conference overall. It's also how you become eligible to win prizes at the show closing, and we draw from people that have completed the entire evaluation form. That's going to be in the app, and it's my understanding that it will not be available until Saturday. So if you're in the app and you're going, it's not there, Larry said it would be there, check again Saturday and refresh your app Saturday, and you should be able to get a hold of that. Which does bring me to our announcement about the closing ceremonies. This was going to be where the Guru Awards are presented. So the conference wrap-up, Guru Awards, closing ceremonies, and prize giveaways will happen at the show close. Now it's time to make some connections and get a great education and go have a lot of fun. I'll see you all over the show at Photoshop World. Have a great day.